Has this happened to you? You tape your acrylic paper to just the right size, you paint a beautiful piece of art, and then when it's time to remove the tape, it rips up your paper. This has happened to me too many times, and it's frustrating and heartbreaking. Hi, I'm Amy, and I have been a painter my whole life, and I have a few steps that I take to make sure that I'm not heartbroken when I remove the tape from my painting. I'm here to share those steps with you in this short video. Not only will this help prevent your paper from tearing, but if you do end up with any paint bleed or small tears when you're removing your paint, this method makes it super easy to fix those. If you stick with me for just a few small steps, a few supplies, you will thank yourself when your painting's finished and it's time to pull off that tape. For this, we just need a few supplies. First, some acrylic or oil paper. I am using 136 pound, 290 gram paper. Some tape. This is just Scotch brand sensitive surface tape. I like to use a mat to trace the size of the painting that I want to make. Then we'll need some white paint, whatever color you choose to underpaint. I'm a fan of burnt sienna. And acrylic medium if you like to thin out your paint a bit. This is a slow dry medium, or sometimes I use a matte medium. A paintbrush, a pencil, and that's it. First, we are going to draw a rectangle in the size that we want our finished painting to be. I like to use a mat to do this. This typically will not be the same mat that I use to finish the painting because it does end up with pencil marks on it. But I have my rectangle. This one is 5.75 by 7.75 inches. But whatever size you prefer is the rectangle that you can draw on your own paper. Next, and this is super important, we are not going to tape directly onto the paper yet. The first thing I'm going to do is actually make a layer of white around my border. So this layer of white paint really is just like the secret to this whole thing. It gives this surface a little bit of a sheen so that when you do stick your tape on, it pulls away much easier, whereas if it's just stuck to like a soft cotton paper, it's really easy to just stick enough to pull those fibers right up. So this is just a really thin layer of white paint, just enough to put a small thin layer around those edges. I can still see my rectangle through the white paint. It's just a little bit lighter. And I like that because then, you won't see a rectangle in the finished painting. Easy peasy. That took me like 30 seconds just to put a white layer of paint on that. All right, now that my white layer of paint has dried, I am ready to tape off my rectangle. So I've got my tape, but again, I'm still not gonna stick this tape directly to the paper. What I'm gonna do, I just approximate the size. I'm gonna stick it to my drop cloth first. This takes some of the tack off of the tape so that it's just slightly less sticky than it would be if you stuck it directly to the paper. I have used some tapes that are way better and some tapes that are way worse at ripping the paper. This one kind of seems to be in the middle, but is a good price point for tape. So this just removes some of that sticky off of it, and then it's ready. I can stick it right there on that line. It's fine if it overlaps off your paper. At this point, I always like to do a layer of underpaint, and I feel like this is a good time to do it. I like to underpaint and then make my sketch instead of the opposite way around, because then I can see my sketch a little bit better. I'm going to thin this and lighten it just a bit, using an acrylic medium to thin it out a bit, and using just a little bit of white to lighten the value. So if you don't enjoy underpainting, not everyone does, totally fine. Just skip this step and move on to painting your artwork. Once this dries, I could make my acrylic or oil painting right on top of here. I'm going to jump ahead and show you a painting that is already finished and just show you how easy it is to peel the tape after we've done this preparation process. And you'll see nothing is tearing. I always peel the tape slowly, and I try to peel at an angle, because we still want to be careful with our painting, but that little layer of white paint has made it so much better. And there you go. No rips, no tears. That white edge still looks perfect. Now, one more thing I want to say about this process. Even if I had the best tape in the whole world, I would still probably do that white layer, because as you can see, there's a little bit of paint bleed in just a couple areas. And then there's this little part right here where I think the underpaint kind of brushed over the edge there. So by having a layer of white paint underneath, I can touch that up and it looks seamless. I'm grabbing just a tiny bit of that white acrylic paint, and I'm going to touch up these areas where there was a little bit of bleed from that underpaint. And since there's already a layer of white paint under this, it doesn't look like there's just random white paint, you know, out of nowhere. It just blends in perfectly with the paint that was already on the background. We'll fix up this little area on the side. So that's it. That's the whole process. It's super simple, super quick. It will only take you a couple extra minutes, and then you'll end up with a beautiful painting instead of a torn up piece of paper. If you are a painter or an aspiring painter, follow along for more acrylic and oil painting tips.